Reborn just one day before the apocalyptic flood, I didn't hoard any food or build some fancy shelter. And I sure as hell didn't blow all my savings on an aircraft carrier, mainly because, well, I was dead broke. But thank God I have this divine fishing rod, the kind that guarantees you never go home empty-handed. As long as I keep fishing, it can upgrade infinitely and catch absolutely anything. Looking back, was it just yesterday? Or the day before? The floodwaters completely swallowed the 15-story-old apartment building right under my feet. I tore apart everything I could use from my place, rigged up a makeshift raft, and set sail. Right then, my girlfriend, Chu Shin, sent me a message. "Fan, I'm so scared. My house is about to be completely flooded. Please, hurry up and come get me." Reading that, a cold smirk crept across my face. Without a second of hesitation, I typed back, "Don't be scared, Shin. Wait for me. You absolutely have to barricade your doors. Don't do anything reckless. I promise I'll get there to save you as fast as I can." After sending that, I shut off the satellite network, sealed my phone in a waterproof bag, and shoved it into my backpack. Like hell I'm going to save you. In my past life, it was this exact bitch, along with my so-called best bro, Chen Z, who literally fed me to a ravenous megalodon. Letting out a long, heavy breath, I double-checked the pathetic amount of supplies left in my pack. Alright, time to cast my first line. With my heart pounding in excitement, I whipped the fishing rod forward and cast the line. But after waiting for almost 1 hour, there wasn't a single ripple in the water. Just as I was about to reel it in and give up, the tip of the rod was violently yanked down by some massive force. I instantly tensed every muscle and cranked the reel like a madman. The thing in the water was insanely strong. It almost dragged me straight into the water. Gritting my teeth, I leaned back and heaved the rod up. The very next second, a red blur burst out of the water. "Fishing successful. Congratulations, you caught 1 pack of spicy snacks. Gained 1 proficiency point." My eye twitched violently. This was absolutely ridiculous. It really proved that old saying among anglers. A fisherman can catch literally anything in the world, except a fish. Worse yet, just casting the line once drained 10 points of my stamina. That means I can only cast 10 times a day at most. At this pitiful rate, it's going to take me at least 12 days just to level up. But I knew damn well, I didn't have that kind of time to grind, because in exactly 7 days, the marine life would undergo its very first mutation. By then, they'll become hyper-aggressive, and they'd actually start getting smart. Shaking off the thought, I quickly cast the line again. A moment later, out in the distance, the bobber started flashing with a faint, pulsing golden light. Wait, is that a legendary gold drop? I instantly locked in and yanked the rod up with everything I had. The reel spun so violently that blazing hot sparks actually shot right off the metal. Grinding my molars together, I threw myself backward onto the deck, using my entire body weight to pin down the rod, which was now bent into a complete half circle. But even giving it my all, the reel wouldn't budge a single inch. Just then, the raft started thrashing wildly. Water was rapidly flooding over the edges of the wood. We were stuck in a dead heat for a while, and my body was already showing signs of giving out entirely. But right then, a sudden stroke of genius hit me. Since I couldn't outmuscle the damn thing, why not just let it tire itself out? Hell yeah, let's do this. Using every last ounce of strength I had left, I jammed the fishing rod tight into the gaps between the wooden planks. Then I stood up, gripping the front of the rod like a boat rudder. And perfectly enough, it was dragging me straight toward the docks. Which was exactly where I had found a lifesaver of a fishing boat in my previous life. Sure enough, the immense pulling force instantly acted as an engine, launching the raft forward. And there I was, standing on the raft, speeding across the water like I was surfing. This absolute spectacle totally blew the minds of the survivors cowering on the rooftops. But I didn't give a damn about them right now. Because to keep this raft from flipping over, I was already locked in a deadly tug-of-war with whatever was down below. I let it drag me in circles around the wide waters of the pier for dozens of laps, and the thing underwater was finally running out of steam. I saw my chance and instantly yanked the line tight. The next second, the water erupted in a burst of golden light. A purple-black ring, shimmering with a dark iridescent glow, clattered onto the raft. Ding! Fishing successful. Obtained hidden item. Spatial ring. Rarity. Supernatural tier. The ring's storage capacity will expand and evolve based on the host's mental strength. Currently, it can only store system-generated items and fishing loot. Holy crap, it really is a golden legendary drop. I collapsed onto the raft, panting heavily. With just a thought, I grabbed my god-tier fishing rod and spicy snacks, and instantly tucked them into the 5 cubic meter pocket space. Overcome with emotion, my eyes welled up as I closed them and just let myself drift. Meanwhile, inside the upscale Fengjiang Gardens apartment complex, Chu Xin was pacing around, angrily tapping on her phone. She was still waiting for a message that I was coming to save her. Just then, Chen Zi walked over and wrapped his arms around her slim waist. "Relax, babe," he smirked. "He loves you so much, he'd brave death itself just to come crawling back to you." Chu Xin furrowed her brows. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was completely off about all this. Chen Zi let out a cold sneer. Lu Fan is definitely out there right now, paddling his heart out like a loyal little dog. Once he gets here, I'll kick him right off that boat of his, and then I'll use it to go find my uncle's yacht to rescue all of you. Over on the couch, second uncle and third aunt, who was clutching her pet poodle, heard them and immediately rushed over to kiss up. "Oh my, little Z, you are just so thoughtful. Our Shin is so incredibly lucky to have met you. It's practically a blessing for the whole Chu family. You are miles better than that useless piece of trash, Lu Fan." Hearing their blatant brown nosing, Chen Zi smiled and nodded along. But a sinister, cold glint flashed in his eyes. Then, his hands started wandering boldly all over Chu Xin. Seeing this, second uncle and second aunt awkwardly turned their heads away, pretending to play with the dog, not daring to interrupt them in the slightest. Meanwhile, back on my end, I rested for an hour before picking up my rod to fish again. I only had about 4 or 5 hours left before the sun went down, after all. And the ocean at night was going to be dangerously, brutally cold. My first cast, I reeled in a pack of cigarettes. The second cast got me a meat cleaver. It wasn't until the fourth cast that I noticed the bobber flickering with a faint, eerie green light. My pupils shrank. I immediately loosened the drag on the fishing reel, while yanking the rod left and right, completely breaking whatever rhythm the thing on the hook was swimming with. I held my breath. The next second, I cranked the handle like crazy, and a blocky, brown silhouette came bursting out of the water. Ding! Fishing successful. Obtained hidden item. Basic workbench. Rarity. Rare tier. Used for synthesizing and crafting from blueprints. Features 1 basic dismantling function per day. Must be bound to a vehicle to use. The blueprint function is limited to common and rare tier qualities. The daily dismantling ability refreshes every midnight at 12 a.m. Looking down at the flimsy wooden raft that looked like it could fall apart at any second, I didn't hesitate. I dropped to one knee right in the center of the deck. Using both hands, I slammed the workbench down firmly onto the thickest, sturdiest joint of the raft. "Bind," I shouted. The very next moment, the workbench suddenly erupted with a ripple of pale golden light that instantly swept across the entire raft. Every single wooden plank and rope knot looked as if some mysterious power had locked them together into one indestructible fortress. But the workbench had another brilliant feature. The dismantling function. I quickly dug through my supply bag and pulled out 4 heating pads. Since I could dismantle things, I figured I'd see if I could turn trash into treasure. I stuffed the heating pads into the workbench's slot. A ball of light flared up, then quickly faded away. In its place, a pitch-black, palm-sized chunk of material sat perfectly in the slot. Ding! Dismantling complete. Obtained 1 unit of low-purity iron-carbon alloy material. Releases heat up to 65 degrees Celsius upon contact with the air. It won't extinguish in water, and it burns for around 12 hours. This is a base material for crafting thermal gear, and it can also be used as an emergency heat source. Holy shit, this thing is insanely overpowered. My eyes lit up. This is basically a portable little heater. I'll have to rely on it to survive tonight. But the moment I put it into my spatial ring, massive black clouds suddenly crushed down from the sky. My blood ran cold. In my past life, after the rain stopped, it was sunny for 5 whole days. Did someone jinx the weather? The dreadful feeling of another storm approaching instantly filled me with sheer panic. If it hits, I'll lose body heat way too fast. I could easily freeze to death tonight. The very next second, a deafening crack of thunder exploded. A massive wave mixed with a torrential downpour slammed right into me. I was violently hurled into the air and crashed hard into the bone-chilling seawater. The freezing, suffocating feeling crawled all over my body. Fighting the burning pain in my lungs, I swam upwards with everything I had and grabbed the edge of the raft. Using my last ounce of strength, I hauled myself up, only to face the brutal pounding of the next giant wave. I don't know how long it lasted, but the raging storm eventually faded into a light drizzle. But the severe hypothermia was already making my consciousness slip away. Trembling, I tried to pull that iron carbon block out of my spatial ring to save my life. Suddenly, a blinding searchlight flashed right in my eyes. Right after that, I heard the deep rumble of an engine. Squinting against the glaring light, I forced my head up. That same beat-up little fishing boat from my memories was cutting through the rain, slowly heading my way. The boat pulled up alongside my raft, and a stocky, middle-aged man hauled me onto his back. He carried me onto the deck and yelled out, "Bring that little raft aboard in a bit. We can chop it up for firewood." A moment later, I was in a warm, dry cabin. Just then, a tanned girl grumbled in annoyance, "It's so dangerous out there, and raining too. Why did you have to save him?" The man just chuckled and gently laid me on the floor. He quickly stripped off my soaking wet jacket. Even though Zhang Xiaomin was complaining, she still picked up a barely warm little heater and tossed it in front of me. "Listen here, punk, my dad was nice enough to save you, but don't get any funny ideas. Otherwise, I'll kick your ass right back into the sea to feed the fishes." I struggled to open my eyes and glanced at her. Sure, she was a beauty, but man, look at all those bulging muscles. She must be a martial artist or something. Definitely don't want to mess with her. Nope. After the two of them left the room, with just a thought, I reached into my spatial ring and pulled out that iron carbon block to warm myself up. As soon as I regained some feeling, my ears perked up. I could hear a weird banging sound coming from outside. Looking out under the awning on the deck, a 200-pound blonde thug was swinging a fire axe with all his might, hacking wildly away at my wooden raft. Is this damn thing made of iron? I've been hacking at it forever and not even a scratch. Zhuang Niu threw the axe down, parked his butt on the deck, and completely gave up. The tall, skinny blonde next to him, Chen Yang, saw him slacking off and kicked him. "You stuff your face with meat every single day, and you can't even chop up a piece of trash raft?" Just then, Zhang Weiguo's voice rang out. "Why do you two look so pale?" The two guys let out an awkward laugh and pointed at the raft. "Uncle Zhang, this thing is insanely hard. The axe doesn't even make a dent." Although Zhang Weiguo was a bit puzzled, he waved them off to go rest. "That yacht dock you guys mentioned should be coming up soon. I'll call you when we spot it." With that, he led Zhang Xiaomin back into the wheelhouse. Watching the father and daughter walk away, Chen Yang swung the axe in his hand and let out a dark, sinister chuckle. "HMPH. Once we find that yacht, you and your little girl are going straight to the bottom of the ocean." Zhuang Niu scrambled up instantly, his face pale with terror. "Brother Chen, are we really gonna kill someone?" I don't want to go to jail," Chen Yang replied with a swift backhand across his face. "You idiot, the whole damn world is underwater. Who's gonna put you in jail?" Meanwhile, inside the cabin, you clutched your spinning head, your entire body aching. After checking the system panel, your suspicions were confirmed. You had a nasty cold. In an apocalypse where medicine is scarce, a bad cold can be deadlier than the disaster itself. However, just as you dragged yourself to the wheelhouse door to find some water, the conversation inside made you freeze. Zhang Xiaomin was speaking in a hesitant voice. "Those two thugs give me the creeps. Are we really gonna help them find their yacht?" Zhang Weiguo patted Xiaomin on the shoulder. "Don't worry, kiddo. Once we find the yacht, we'll borrow some fuel and head straight west to Mount Shihuan. I heard someone set up a temporary settlement there. It's our only chance of survival." Standing outside the door, your eyes went wide. If memory served you right from your past life, that place was the only safe, official base within a 500-mile radius. Sadly, in my previous life, I was dragged down by that idiot Chen Zi, who insisted on hunting down this stupid yacht out at sea, making me miss the perfect evacuation window. I ended up as nothing but a meat shield for their escape. And right as these thoughts crossed my mind, Zhang Xiaomin yanked the door open. The next second, I fell flat on my face. I looked up at them awkwardly and croaked out, do you guys have any water?" Zhang Weiguo frowned. He stepped forward and felt my forehead, then immediately jerked his hand back in shock. "You're burning up. Xiaomin, go boil some hot water, quick." After sending her off, he pulled open a drawer and dug out a box of 999 cold medicine. You have to understand, in this collapsed, apocalyptic world, a single pill was enough for two grown men to fight to the death over. It could even buy you a whole night with a top-tier beauty. Yet, Uncle Jong simply popped a pill out and handed it to me. It was a truly heartwarming gesture. This stuff is precious, and I don't have much left. But take this and try to push through. Staring at the capsule in my hand, my eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Jong Waiguo was a good man. But unfortunately, in the apocalypse, the good guys always die first. However, just as I swallowed the pill and was about to thank him, a sudden shout came from outside. "Uncle Jong, stop the boat. We found the yacht." Hearing this, Jong Waiguo handed the wheel over to his daughter and stepped out of the wheelhouse. He leaned over the rail as they quickly pulled up alongside the yacht. Little did he know, what was about to happen would almost cost him his life. Chen Yang shot Zhuang Niu a meaningful glare. They followed Zhang Waiguo as he jumped aboard to inspect the yacht, only to find the fuel tank was completely full. The interior of the yacht was in perfect condition too. Right then, Uncle Zhang sensed that something was off. "Little Chen, since we found your boat, about our deal to borrow some of your fuel, that's still fine, right?" Chen Yang dusted off his hands and flashed a sinister grin. "Not a problem at all. How could I say no to Uncle Zhang?" He then turned back toward the fishing boat to grab some tools. Meanwhile, Uncle Zhang crouched down, skillfully sorting out the fuel hoses. But a second later, a heavy wooden club smashed into the back of his head. He collapsed face first into a puddle on the deck, his body twitching twice before falling completely still. Chen Yang tossed the club aside, shaking out his stinging hand, while Zhuang Niu grabbed a pre-prepared nylon rope. They violently yanked the half-conscious Uncle Zhang's arms behind his back and hogtied him. Suddenly, the wheelhouse door swung open. Zhang Xiaomin immediately spotted her father lying on the deck. Without a second thought, she grabbed the fire axe by the door and charged right at them. But Chen Yang's reflexes were lightning fast. Grabbing Zhang Waiguo tightly by the hair, he immediately pressed a folding knife right against his throat. Zhang Xiaomin held her axe frozen in midair, her eyes totally red from crying. "Are you out of your damn minds? If it wasn't for my dad, you'd be sleeping with the fishes by now." Chen Yang spat on the ground with a look of absolute disgust. "I never asked you to save us. So spare me the damn guilt trip. Drop the axe and get on your knees." Zhang Xiaomin could only fall to her knees in pure despair. A second later, Zhuang Niu took the chance to tie her up too. He then rubbed his hands together, a sickeningly happy grin on his face. "Man, this yacht is huge. And we happen to be exactly one woman short." Zhang Waiguo's eyes went wide with rage, struggling with everything he had. But Chen Yang viciously kicked him right in the chest. "Give me the passcode to that supply safe. Do that, and I might just consider letting your daughter live." But Zhang Waiguo just squeezed his eyes shut, refusing to say a single word. He knew damn well that with his daughter in their filthy hands, even if she didn't die today, her life would become a living hell anyway. Seeing this, Chen Yang stood back up, his eyes burning with pure malice. "Fatty, go drag that sick freak out here." Moments later, I was dragged out, my face as pale as a ghost. Chen Yang tossed the folding knife over to Zhuang Niu. "Cut his damn head off. Let Uncle Zhang here see exactly what's gonna happen to his precious daughter." Zhuang Niu let out a bizarre yell, trying to hype himself up. The very next second, he raised the blade and charged right at me. But because the deck was so ridiculously slippery, his heavy body ended up slipping and crashing right on top of me. Several seconds passed, and he didn't move an inch. Cursing under his breath, Chen Yang walked over and gave Zhuang Niu a swift kick in the ass. Still, there was absolutely zero reaction. However, the exact moment Chen Yang rolled the heavy body over, a sudden flash of cold steel shot out from under the fat corpse. The sharp blade slashed through the air. Chen Yang jerked his head back, and the next second, he stumbled backward, clutching his head and screaming in pure agony. In the puddle of water on the deck, a bloody, severed ear suddenly dropped. Pushing off my knees, I staggered to my feet, completely ignoring Chen Yang's pathetic howling. I raised my machete, aiming straight for his throat, but suddenly, a massive wave crashed violently against the side of the boat. Already weak to the bone, my legs completely gave out. I collapsed hard right onto the deck, and the machete flew straight out of my hands. It slid all the way to Chen Yang's feet. In a split second, the tables had completely turned. Chen Yang froze for a second, before a twisted, wild joy exploded in his eyes. He scrambled over, crawling on his hands and knees. He snatched up the machete and roared like a total maniac, "You little bastard. Go to hell." Zhang Xiaomin immediately screamed out a frantic warning. "Lu Fan, watch out." However, the very instant the blade came crashing down, Chen Yang suddenly felt a strange lightness in his arm. The machete that was tightly gripped in his hand had vanished into thin air, turning into nothing but empty space. Chen Yang was frozen in his chopping stance, his eyes practically popping right out of his skull. Before his slow brain could even process what happened, my empty left hand snapped back, my fingers curling around thin air. Without any warning, the machete reappeared right in my grasp. With a vicious backhand upward slash, the sharp blade drove straight through Chen Yang's entire stomach. My face totally blank, I yanked the blade out. Fighting through a splitting headache, I climbed right on top of him, ready to deliver the final strike. If I can't live, then we're all dying together. The next second, he whipped a detonator out from his jacket and slammed his thumb down hard. It was a homemade explosive used for blast fishing. Earlier, when we were searching the yacht, Zhuang Niu must have secretly stuck it right next to the fuel tank. My pupils shrank to pinpricks as I desperately sped up my swing. But the exact second my blade crushed Chen Yang's throat, a blinding wave of scorching heat, followed by an earth-shattering roar, erupted from the bottom of the boat. The entire cabin was blown straight into the sky. The blast wave sent me flying through the air. I tumbled wildly before violently crashing down hard onto the deck. Sky-high flames instantly ignited the leaking diesel fuel, swallowing half the deck into an absolute sea of fire. The hull was taking on water and started tilting violently. I ignored the discomfort, grabbed a bunch of keys from Chen Yang's pocket, and stumbled toward the bow. I cut the ropes binding Zhang Weiguo and his daughter. "Go, hurry, get on the yacht." The father and daughter stumbled over the side of the ship and jumped onto that grayish-white yacht. Zhang Xiaomin stood on the deck, reaching out to me anxiously. "Lu Fan, hurry, get on, the fishing boat is going to sink." But I stood in the glow of the fire and shook my head. Instead, I locked my eyes on the wooden raft. A bold idea sparked in my mind as I looked at Zhang Xiaomin. "What time is it right now?" Zhang Xiaomin froze, asking for the time at a moment like this. 11:55. "Hurry up and leave, if we don't go now, it'll be too late," I muttered to myself, a sharp gleam flashing in my eyes. "Still got 5 minutes. Then, I pulled out the pack of cigarettes I fished up earlier and tossed it perfectly into Zhang Xiaomin's arms from a few meters away. "This pack of smokes should be enough for you to trade for plenty of supplies at the outpost. Consider it me paying back the favor I owe your dad. Head west to the West Wanshan outpost. Don't look back." After saying that, I turned around and stopped looking at her, dragging my exhausted body toward the wooden raft. Zhang Xiaomin stared at my resolute back, then looked down at her father, who was breathing weakly in her arms. She gritted her teeth, ducked into the yacht's cabin, and the boat disappeared with the father and daughter into the pitch-black, rainy night. Meanwhile, I stood on the doomed ship, silently counting down the time in my head. Right at the very first second of the next day. Ding! Today's dismantle limits have been refreshed. I suddenly slammed my right hand onto the workbench beneath me, while my left hand tightly gripped the deck of the sinking fishing boat. Dismantle. The next moment, an incredibly blinding golden light erupted from the base of the workbench. The light spread rapidly across the deck, and the massive beast of a ship that was sinking just a second ago suddenly froze in midair, completely motionless. In this space where the laws of physics had failed, the hull instantly began to disintegrate. All of its matter transformed into countless tiny specks of light, rushing wildly into the core of the workbench. About 10 minutes later, the light faded. The fishing boat, weighing dozens of tons, completely vanished from the surface of the sea. Without anything to hold them up, the corpses of Chen Yang and Zhuang Niu drifted away with the waves like two trash bags. And there I was, sitting on my lonely little wooden raft, staring at a pile of purified materials floating right above the workbench. Dismantle successful. Congratulations, host, you have obtained 20 standard anti-corrosion wood planks, 10 standard construction iron plates, 5 standard tempered glasses, 2 superior copper core coils, 1 50-liter barrel of superior diesel fuel, and 1 special component, a damaged but repairable fishing boat diesel engine. Looking at all these things, I couldn't help but frown. Such a huge ship, and it only broke down into this little bit? But after a prompt from the system, I finally understood. It turned out the workbench's power was limited. so it ended up purifying the materials. With a thought, I shoved everything right into my spatial ring. Since my spirit stat had reached 7 points, the corresponding inventory space had also expanded to 7 cubic meters. Just then, the workbench vibrated again, detected that materials have met the requirements for the current vehicle's core upgrade. It can be upgraded to a level 1 basic survival boat. Do you want to upgrade immediately? The headache from my fever was making my vision a bit blurry, so I quickly chose to upgrade. The next second, the materials inside the spatial ring flew out of thin air and instantly merged into the wooden raft under my feet. The entire raft actually transformed into a steel and wood boat full of rugged beauty. The half-iron, half-wood structure made it look like a miniature armored vehicle on the water. I couldn't wait and ducked right into the cabin. The isolated world inside instantly fell quiet. Even though the cabin was generally pretty simple, it was incredibly dry and felt completely safe. Looking around this little sanctuary of mine, after being brutally betrayed and reborn, my eyes are actually tearing up a little. In my past life, I worked my fingers to the bone on that fishing boat. But Chu Xin's family wasn't just ungrateful, they took it all for granted. They treated me like absolute garbage, but now, I have the dignity to actually survive in this apocalypse. Wrapped in warmth, I curled up into a ball, and let my mind drift off into the dark. First thing the next morning, I pushed open the cabin door and licked my chapped lips. My stomach was rumbling, too. Looks like it's time to cast a line. Hopefully, I can sort out my food and fresh water problem today. Meanwhile, over at the upscale Fengjiang Yuan apartments, Chu Xin threw her phone onto the couch in a fit of rage. Damn it, it's completely dead. Staring at the miserable half-pack of cookies left on the table, she clutched her growling stomach. Her eyes were practically dripping with venom. That absolute bastard, Lu Fan. Is he freaking dead? How dare he ignore my messages? Right on cue, her second aunt and uncle pulled her into the corner of the kitchen, dropping their voices to a whisper. Zinner, honey, I think that Lu Fan kid actually drowned. With the scraps we have left, that massive brute Chen Zi eats enough for 3 people in one sitting. If we keep dragging this out, we're all going to starve. Chu Xin grimaced at the thought, but a vicious glint flashed in her second aunt's eyes. I've got a plan. Those old geezers next door have an inflatable boat. Bought it for their grandson to play in. Let's make Chen Zi go steal it, and then he can take us out of here. Her second uncle froze, completely taken aback by how ruthless his own wife could be. Chu Xin thought it over for a second, gave a sharp nod, and marched straight into the bedroom. A few minutes later, after hearing Chu Xin out, Chen Zi swaggered into the living room and grabbed a fruit knife. Sure, I'll do it, but those folks next door, they've got a son pushing 40, and he's a big dude. I can't handle them all by myself. Second uncle, you're gonna have to back me up. Gripping their blades, the 2 men crept over to the neighbor's door. They grabbed a crowbar and violently smashed the door open. The neighbor's middle-aged son wildly swung a knife, screaming, "What the hell do you want? Get out!" Chen Zi let out a cold sneer and lunged forward, driving his knife straight for the guy's throat. He'd done a few years of kickboxing and fought incredibly dirty. Before the son could even react, a massive gash was ripped across his neck. The old couple shrieked, throwing themselves at him in sheer desperation. It was absolute chaos. In the middle of the bloodbath, the old man managed to stab second uncle in the thigh right before his dying breath. Chen Zi didn't hesitate, quickly finishing off the elderly couple. Second uncle screamed in agony, collapsing to the floor. He sat there shaking like a leaf, staring at the absolute carnage around them. Xiao Zi, help me up, please. Chen Zi flicked the fresh blood off his blade, panting heavily as he walked over. He stood over the older man, looking down at him with cold, dead eyes. Looks like a pretty deep cut, second uncle. Yeah, it is. Hurry, get me back inside so we can bandage it. Chen Zi crouched down, his voice terrifyingly calm. If I take you back, I've still got to share my food with you. And I'd have to take care of you. Plus, that little boat isn't that big. You're just a useless old burden now. Don't drag the rest of us down. Second uncle's eyes went wide with terror, but before he could even beg for his life, a sudden, freezing pain pierced his chest. Chen Zi's face was completely blank as he viciously twisted the knife handle buried in the old man's chest. Dead men don't eat. Saves us all a whole lot of trouble. I guess killing someone for the second time feels just as good. After catching his breath, Chen Zi found the inflatable raft and cleared out every last bit of supplies in the room. Finally, he threw his second uncle's body out the window and into the floodwaters below. After taking care of all that, Chen Zi went back inside. Seeing that his uncle hadn't returned, Chu Xin and his second aunt hurriedly asked him what happened. Chen Zi's eyes grew red. Those bastards were so ruthless. To save me, uncle. They pushed him out the window. His aunt's eyes rolled back, and she burst into agonizing sobs. Terrified, Chu Xin covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Chen Zi pulled her into a tight embrace, pressing her head against his shoulder. Xin, thank God I was lucky enough to make it back. Once I rest up and heal for a couple of days, we're leaving. I promise I'll keep you alive. Chu Xin was completely overwhelmed with emotion, and tightly hugged the bloodstained man back. Meanwhile, at 1 in the afternoon, I was sitting at the front of my boat, enjoying the loot I had fished up that morning. Out of the 5 casts I made this morning, besides the bottled water and beef jerky needed for survival, I also hooked a clean rubber tube, a bundle of wooden blocks, and a bag of quartz sand. Even though they were all just basic, low-tier junk, in the apocalypse, every single one of these items was incredibly useful. A little while later, I wasted no time and cast my line again. As the bobber suddenly sank and a bright green light burst forth, the item I reeled in literally made my heart skip a beat. Fishing successful. Obtained 1 Type 64 pistol. Rarity, excellent grade, highly reliable, but the magazine capacity is only 7 rounds. In this apocalyptic world where all order has collapsed, this right here is absolute power. I really hit the jackpot this time. I carefully tucked it away in my spatial ring. My confidence skyrocketed, and I kept on fishing. But 2 hours later, on the 7th cast, I gladly pulled up a basic windproof lighter. And on the 8th cast, I scored big with a basic vacuum sealed down comforter. I couldn't help but sigh. No kid cries every day. And no gambler loses every single day. I'm going to reclaim the glory of all fishermen. Sure enough, on my fully focused 9th cast, that long-awaited green light flashed on the bobber once again. Ha ha ha, give me the good stuff. Fishing successful. Obtained an excellent grade blueprint, basic drip filter water purifier. I excitedly slapped my thigh and immediately threw the blueprint onto the workbench to check it out. A crude device, but one that can absolutely save your miserable life. Compared to distillation, the energy cost was much lower, and it produced fresh water much more consistently. But because of the lack of electricity and a high pressure pump, the agonizingly slow process would make you want to smash it to pieces. Staring at the workbench, I frowned slightly. The secondary materials were easy enough to get, but trying to find the main material just by fishing relied way too much on pure luck. If I didn't manage to fish up any fresh water in the meantime, I'd probably be dead meat. I looked up. 200 meters ahead was a 30-story office building. There were bound to be fish tanks or home water purifiers inside. It shouldn't be too hard to scavenge a household RO reverse osmosis filter from them. I had a gun and a knife, so it was time to search the building. But the exact moment I tried to start the engine, the air instantly froze. A string of glaring red text flashed on the workbench. Engine severely damaged. Requires an excellent grade mechanical repair kit or equivalent parts to repair. I slapped myself hard on the forehead. Yesterday, I was so caught up in the thrill of upgrading the boat's hull that I completely forgot this piece of trash engine was broken. With a dark expression, I pulled a wooden block out of my spatial ring. Then, using my machete, I hastily carved out an improvised wooden oar, reverting straight back to the Stone Age. Moving at a literal snail's pace, I paddled for my life toward that office building. After half an hour of grueling strength training, I was dead tired as I finally pulled up against the exterior glass of the office building's 18th floor, peering inside through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside was a half-flooded office. I wedged the bow of my boat right into the window. Gripping the machete tight in one hand, I used my other to feel for the Type 64 pistol sitting in my spatial storage. Taking a deep breath, I vaulted through the window. The water level was just over my knees. I kept my footsteps incredibly light, quickly scanning the area. Through the darkness, I realized the place was completely stripped bare. It had already been scavenged. I checked a few more offices after that, but it was the exact same story. I'm afraid the survivors in this building have already formed an organized group. I let out a cold scoff and glanced up at the ceiling. Since they've pooled all the supplies together, that saves me the trouble of checking every room. I'll just go straight to their door and take it. However, just as I walked past a small office, a thick, nauseating stench of rotting flesh hit me right in the face. I instinctively held my breath, pressing myself against the wall as I edged toward the doorway. But in the dim light, the scene inside was absolutely horrifying. Those bastards, in that rather cramped office space, floated 4 or 5 gruesome corpses. They had clearly been brutally tortured before they died. It's only day 6 of the apocalypse. The floodwaters shouldn't have completely washed away their humanity just yet. Are the guys in this building already acting like animals? But just as I was about to pull back, heavy footsteps and voices suddenly echoed from the stairs above. I quickly dodged, and hid in the shadows nearby to keep watch. A few seconds later, 2 haggard-looking men in filthy suits came down, carrying a fresh female corpse between them, treating her like a piece of trash. They tossed the body into the office filled with the dead. The guy in the back wearing glasses wiped the sweat off his face and muttered numbly, "What a damn sin. Just for half a piece of bread, Boss Peng and his guys ruined her like this." She died before she could even take a bite. The tall guy in front shivered in fear. He quickly told him to shut up, then whispered a quiet rest in peace toward the body. Only then did they hastily turn and run back upstairs. I stared at the empty stairwell, my eyes turning ice cold. Boss Peng, huh? Looks like he's the local tyrant of this building. That also means the core filter cartridge I need is more than likely sitting right in this Boss Peng's den. I checked my magazine. After chambering around, I quietly crept my way up the stairs. Up in the chairman's office on the top floor of the building, 3 well-groomed middle-aged men were sinking into leather sofas. Boss Peng flicked his ash, his beady eyes narrowing into thin slits. The satellite phone just connected. My old connections over at Mount Shiwan are still active. In 5 days, they're sending a boat to take us to the shelter. The balding boss Shu and the scrawny boss Niu piled on the flattering smiles and started sucking up. Oh man, Boss Peng really does have the most extensive network. Exactly, you've gotta pull us brothers along when the time comes. We're relying completely on you. Boss Peng soaked in their sycophantic stares, glancing at the half-empty plate of canned meat. How much of the supplies in those women are left? Boss Shu rubbed his hands together, his tone a bit hesitant. We still have a dozen or so women locked up downstairs. At least 5 or 6 of them are good-looking, enough to keep you entertained for a while. But the food supplies, I'm afraid we're running short. Boss Peng's tone carried a hint of malicious amusement. In this apocalypse, the most worthless consumable is human life. Find an excuse tonight, get Li Huo and his guys to stir up a riot. Don't let those bottom feeders waste our food anymore. Meanwhile, down in the open plan office on the 29th floor, over 100 survivors were crammed together. Just then, a slender figured, standing at 1.5 meters and weighing 220 pounds, Zhou Xiaoli spoke up. Those girls who went upstairs the past few days are probably living it up and eating like queens. Sure, they're selling themselves, but that's way better than starving to death down here in this dump. Skinny little Xiao Yu looked completely zoned out and anxious. But none of the girls who went up there have come back. Do you think something bad happened to them? But Zhou Xiaoli just rolled her eyes, her face full of absolute disgust. Those tramps just wanted to bag themselves a sugar daddy. Now they've got exactly what they asked for. Who'd want to come back to this total pigsty? After saying that, she purposely raised her voice to whine. Though those nasty men have terrible taste anyway. How could they completely overlook a natural beauty like me? But right at that moment, a massive commotion broke out over at the lobby entrance. A buzz-cut guy named Li Huo swaggered in, backed up by a bunch of bulky tough guys. He was Boss Peng's right-hand man, and the guy running the show for all the survivors on this floor. Zhou Xiaoli's eyes instantly lit up, and she charged right at him like a literal human meat tank. The floorboards literally shook with every step. She forced a sickly sweet, raspy little voice and acted all shy. Oh, Li Huo, honey, are you here to pick some lucky girls to go upstairs and live the good life again? Just look at me, pale skin, pleasantly plump, and absolutely adorable. I promise I'll make Boss Peng very, very happy. The entire room instantly fell into a dead silence. Everyone's eyes were practically bulging out of their heads, staring at this practically square-shaped pleasantly plump lady. Their stomachs collectively churned in disgust. Li Huo's mouth twitched a couple of times. He fought hard to swallow down his own absolute revulsion. Because nobody had a clue, he wasn't down here to run a beauty pageant at all. He was actually here to take out the trash and get rid of some troublemakers before the big purge tonight. He took 2 steps back and shot his guys a look. This fat pig is definitely on the list. Take her away. His thugs totally got the hint, forcing fake smiles while trying not to gag. Hey there, gorgeous, come with us. Boss Peng is waiting for you upstairs. Zhou Xiaoli actually thought she had been picked and let out an arrogant, smug little snort. Right then, Li Huo caught a glimpse of the pretty Xiao Yu sitting nearby. That girl over there is pretty cute. Bring her up for Boss Peng to see, too. But the second Xiao Yu started to stand up, Zhou Xiaoli suddenly kicked her right in the stomach. Xiao Yu instantly fell back, slamming the back of her head hard on the floor. She passed out cold on the spot. Meanwhile, Zhou Xiaoli started putting on a total fake act, crying out. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Xiao Yu. I swear I didn't do that on purpose. My foot totally just slipped. But inside, she was already scheming. There was no way she'd let anyone else steal her ticket to the good life. Li Huo looked down at the barely breathing Xiao Yu. He could only mutter to his guys, this chick isn't gonna make it. Have someone toss her out downstairs. I don't want her dying in here. With that, he quickly led Zhou Xiaoli out of the lobby and headed down the hallway. Now, Zhou Xiaoli might be stupid, but even she started to sense that something was super off. Because the direction these guys were taking her definitely wasn't toward the private stairs to the 30th floor. It was leading straight to the emergency exit going downstairs. She quickly asked, Li Huo, honey? Are you going the wrong way? Isn't this the way down? But the second the words left her mouth, 2 of the big guys lunged at her from both sides. They tried to pin her down, and Zhou Xiaoli instantly snapped into full-on panic mode. She let out a horrific screech like a slaughtered pig, and that body carrying hundreds of pounds of fat suddenly unleashed an insane amount of strength, instantly launching the 2 huge guys flying across the hall. The crash was so massive it felt like the entire building was shaking. Meanwhile, inside the stairwell, I was just about to sneak my way up when I froze in my tracks. Staring straight up, I couldn't help but mutter out loud, holy crap, are they actually raising pigs in this building? Who the hell is feeding them this well? By now, the hallway had already descended into absolute chaos. Li Huo was furious and started screaming at the top of his lungs. You useless trash, get her. Don't let her alert the others. 2 more muscular thugs rushed up. The 4 grown men pinned her down like a pig ready for slaughter. It took every ounce of their strength just to hold Zhou Xiaoli down on the floor. After wrapping her mouth tightly with duct tape, Li Huo wiped his sweat and barked a vicious order. Drag her downstairs and butcher her. Don't leave a single trace. His 4 goons hauled the desperately struggling Zhou Xiaoli away, cursing as they headed down the stairs. But halfway down, the 2 guys in the front suddenly stopped in their tracks. Looks like someone's in there. The 2 of them cautiously crept into the corridor to check it out. But it was dead silent inside. Not a single sound. One of the remaining thugs, a guy with heavy stubble, tossed Zhou Xiaoli to his buddy and went in to take a look himself. But the second he reached the corner, his body completely froze. Then, with his legs twisting at a bizarre angle, he stumbled backward out of the shadows. A second later, he collapsed dead on the spot. Before his partner in the hat could even react, a cold flash of steel shot out of the dark. A heavy machete came spinning through the air, and took him out with pinpoint precision. Still tied up on the floor, Zhou Xiaoli witnessed this horrifying scene, and completely wet herself in terror. She began squirming frantically, desperate to get away. Right then, I stepped out from the shadows. I used the tip of my blade to peel the duct tape off Zhou Xiaoli's mouth. Make one sound, and I'll cut your tongue out. Answer my questions honestly, and I might just let you live. Terrified, Zhou Xiaoli nodded like crazy, spilling absolutely everything she knew. The survivors are all gathered on the 29th floor. Boss Peng and the supplies are up on the 30th. The only way up to the 30th floor is through the central staircase on the 29th. They have about 30 armed guards. Now I knew what I was dealing with. I glanced down at the dead guy in the hat, who was about the same size as me, and instantly got an idea. I quickly stripped off his clothes, threw them on, and pulled the hat down low. Trembling, Zhou Xiaoli begged me to take her somewhere safe. But I didn't even give her a second glance. Find your own hiding spot. Being rejected, Zhou Xiaoli immediately threw a fit, threatening to scream and draw the others to us. But the moment a sound left her lips, I swung my blade down without a second of hesitation. Zhou Shaoli was put to sleep for good, instantly collapsing lifelessly to the floor. A moment later, I arrived at the 29th floor stairwell. Pulling my hat brim lower, I pushed the door open. The two guards at the door quickly greeted me. "Hey, Han, back so soon? Where are the others?" I asked, deliberately making my voice sound hoarse. Those three got a bit excited, said they wanted to have some fun with that fat pig before coming back up. The guard paused for a second, thinking about Zhou Shaoli's sheer size. His stomach visibly churned. He gagged and waved his hand dismissively. Whatever. Go on up, Han. Brother Huo is calling for an assembly." Keeping my head down, I slipped right in. The second I stepped onto the 30th floor, I saw 2 rows of men standing in the main hall. There were about 20 of them, every single one heavily armed. I quietly took my place at the back of the formation to observe. I knew damn well that with only 7 bullets left in my pistol, going in guns blazing was basically suicide. Just then, Li Huo strolled over with his hands behind his back. He cleared his throat and shouted, "You boys are the absolute elite, handpicked by me and Boss Peng. We have only one mission tonight. Take all those useless, ugly freeloaders who do nothing but eat our food, and wipe them all out. Once we pull off this final job, the ship will be here in 5 days. Then we can follow Boss Peng to Mount Shiwan and live like absolute kings." The crowd instantly erupted into excited, guttural cheers, their eyes burning with pure greed. But who would have thought Li Huo would walk right up to me at the back of the line? I tensed up instantly, thinking my cover was blown. My hands immediately formed a loose grip, ready to draw my gun at a second's notice. But the very next second, Li Huo clapped me hard on the shoulder. "Han, my boy, you're the one I value most around here. You're leading the mission tonight." I was totally stunned, screaming on the inside. "You've gotta be kidding me, man. I just came here to scavenge some supplies. This is messing with my head way too much." But right then, all I could do was bite the bullet, pull my hat down low, and nod. Li Huo actually thought I was shaking. He leaned in and threatened, "Don't you dare play any games with me. I'm the boss here. You do exactly what I tell you to do." After snapping at me, he slapped on that fake smile again and ordered everyone to dismiss and rest up. We move out at nightfall. I was actually hoping to use this chance to slip away, but Li Huo waved me over, stopping me in my tracks. "Come on, Han, Boss Peng wants to see us. Remember, keep your mouth shut and just nod." No matter how incredibly frustrated I felt, I had no choice but to bite the bullet and follow behind him. We walked into Boss Peng's office. In front of the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, Boss Peng was sitting in his leather executive chair with his back to us, a cigar clamped in his fingers. He was staring out at the ocean, totally lost in thought. After gesturing for us to sit, he casually tossed out 2 pieces of Dove chocolate. Back in the day, even dogs wouldn't touch this stuff. But now, it's worth more than gold bars. Li Huo didn't hesitate for a second. He ripped open the wrapper and shoved it into his mouth. Mumbling with a full mouth, he asked Boss Peng what his orders were. Boss Peng slowly turned around, his voice low and serious. "We just got a call from Mount Shiwan. Highly aggressive mutated fish have appeared in the ocean. The big ship has been swapped for speedboats. Spots on board are extremely limited." My heart skipped a beat. Those mutated fish weren't supposed to show up for another 6 days. Why is it happening so early? Did my rebirth trigger some kind of butterfly effect? Just then, Boss Peng held up 3 fingers. He said there were only 3 tickets for the boat. He put on a fake smile to reassure Li Huo and me, calling us his absolute best men. He promised we'd definitely get a spot. Li Huo's eyes lit up with wild excitement, and he started thanking him profusely. I kept my hat pulled down and mumbled my thanks too. But then, Boss Peng shifted gears, his tone turning ice cold. "We've got way too many people here. When those boats arrive, it's gonna be pure chaos. Boss Shu and Boss Niu's crews? They're nothing but dead weight now. When we make our move tonight, I don't want to see any of them breathing by tomorrow." Li Huo jumped up immediately, dragging a finger across his throat. "Don't you worry, boss. The second the riot starts tonight, Han and I will take them out." After that, Boss Peng told me to wait outside and rest up. He needed to talk privately with Li Huo. I couldn't have asked for a better excuse. I quickly backed out of the room. But the second I closed the door, I heard Boss Peng drop his voice and say to Li Huo, "Truth is, there are only 2 tickets. Han is loyal, sure, but the kid is way too thick-headed. Taking him along is worse than bringing 2 crates of canned food. Once you finish off Boss Shu and the others, go ahead and take care of Han, too. Li Huo froze for a split second. Then, a vicious smirk crept across his face. Great minds think alike, boss. I've been sick of looking at him for a while now. Meanwhile, after Li Huo finally left, Boss Peng stared at the sunset out the window, a mocking smirk tugging at his lips. Oh, Li Huo. Such a good little dog. But it's a real shame, there was only ever one ticket. As darkness fell, the office building was completely dead, without a single drop of power. The only light came from broken desk legs and planks burning inside a few steel oil drums. The flickering flames barely lit up the lobby. By the light of the fire, I figured out where the supplies were kept. Right in the old finance room. But standing guard at the door were 6 hulking guys, keeping an eye on each other. Peeking through the crack in the door, I caught a glimpse of the stash inside. Sitting right there in the corner were several dismantled commercial water purifiers. A wave of thrill instantly washed over me. Hard work really does pay off. I finally found them, but just as I was plotting my next move, a heavy hand suddenly slammed down on my shoulder. Then came Li Huo's voice. Hey Han, what are you staring at? It's time, come with me. Let's handle the real business first. Glancing at the guards and Li Huo, I knew a head-on attack was a bad idea. Better to play along. I'll make my move once the chaos starts. So I gave a silent nod and followed Li Huo to where Boss Shu and Boss Niu were staying. The two of us stood outside a luxury suite. Even with top-tier soundproofing, you could still hear the wild, excited squeals of a man and a woman inside. Li Huo sneered and shot me a look. The next second, he violently kicked the door open. Boss Shu, who was busy playing hide and seek, jumped out of his skin. He immediately started screaming his head off. Li Huo, do you have a death wish? How dare you bust into my room? Li Huo just kicked the door shut behind him. 2 machetes gleamed coldly in the candlelight. Sorry to ruin the mood, gentlemen. Boss Peng asked me to pass on a message. He needs you both to do us a favor, and drop dead. Boss Niu roared and reached for the steel pipe by the bed, but Li Huo wasn't giving him the chance. He dashed forward in a flash, swinging those 2 blades in a deadly blur. He sent them both straight to respawn. The women shrieked and scattered in panic, but I blocked their way at the door. One woman dropped to her knees at my feet, begging, "Please, mister, let me go. I was just doing this for a bite to eat. I'll do anything." My eyes showed a mix of emotions. I knew how incredibly hard it was for ordinary people to survive in this world, so I reached out to open the door and let them out. Besides, the more chaotic it got, the easier it'd be for me to strike. But just as I twisted the doorknob, a blood-crazed Li Huo lunged over, finishing off the women in just a few brutal swipes. The agonizing screams in the room were instantly cut short. Li Huo walked toward me step by step, his voice dark. "Oh, Han, Boss Shu and his buddy are already on their way. Now it's your turn." But as I watched Li Huo closing in on me, the corners of my mouth suddenly curled into a smirk. The next second, I pulled off my hat, revealing a totally unfamiliar face. "Oh, Huo, being this ruthless isn't a good look, is it?" Li Huo's pupils shrank in absolute shock as he gasped. "Who the hell are you? Where is Han?" But in the blink of an eye, the dark muzzle of a gun was aimed right between his eyes. "Drop the knives and put your hands up." I held the gun with one hand, my tone flat. Li Huo took a deep breath and let go. The 2 machetes clattered to the floor. He locked eyes with me, calculating in his head. Within 7 steps, he was confident he could snap my neck. So while his mouth spat fake pleas for mercy, his feet suddenly pushed off, lunging right at me. Yet I didn't pull the trigger. Instead, I swung my arm wide, as if I was going to smash his head with the gun. Li Huo felt a rush of wild joy, assuming the gun was empty. But the exact moment my arm swung out, the gun suddenly vanished. In its place was a razor-sharp wood cleaver. At such close range, the heavy cleaver smashed Li Huo dead to the wall with brutal precision. Li Huo's eyes went wide. He stared at the cleaver lodged deep in his chest. Then he looked at the gun that had reappeared in my hand, his entire reality instantly shattering. How did the gun turn into a knife? I just walked over and yanked the cleaver out. This is what you call outsmarting. Little Huo, your gang of goons is right outside. Shooting would make way too much noise and tip them off. Li Huo opened his mouth, eyes wide, and breathed his last. I pulled back my machete, straightened up my gear, and pushed the door open. The 20-something guys in the hall were already lined up. Just then, someone asked in confusion, "Captain Han, where's Boss Huo?" I let out a calm cough. Boss Huo is taking a massive crap and getting held up. He told us to go on ahead. The crowd murmured, but no one dared to make a move. I suddenly cranked up my voice and roared, "Questions, questions, questions. Are you all completely brain dead? The mission Boss Peng gave us is dead simple. You see someone, you hack them down. Do I seriously have to teach you idiots how to hold a knife? If anyone messes up our chance to get to Shiwan Mountain, I'll be the first one to cripple you." That roar completely froze everyone in their tracks. One of the veterans quickly stepped up to back me up, leading the guys into 3 groups as they charged toward the stairs. Even the 6 guards watching the supplies rushed down right behind them. In less than a minute, the 30th floor was completely empty. I let out a sneer, turned around, and headed straight for the supply room. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff inside, but I didn't have the time to browse. I went straight for the water purifier in the corner and hacked its casing open with a single strike. I successfully snatched up 5 premium-grade water filters. My heart leapt with wild joy. I just hit the jackpot. With these, I could build my own water purifier, and even cover all future replacements. But just as I was getting caught up in looting, a sudden, piercing chill ran down my spine. My scalp instantly went numb. The very next second, an icy dagger was silently pressed against my lower back. Boss Peng's chilling voice whispered in my ear, "I knew there was something off about you, kid. Where did Li Huo go? I'm guessing you already killed him, didn't you?" My heart sank. I never would have guessed. That Boss Peng had managed to sneak up on me without making a single sound. How the hell was I going to get out of this? Just then, the dagger in Boss Peng's hand pushed another half-inch forward. It pierced right through my clothes. He then reached out and started patting me down. But instead of weapons, he only found the water filters. He burst into a fit of laughter. "So this is what you were sneaking around to steal? To take out Li Huo so easily, and slip in here completely unnoticed? You've got some real skills, kid. You're a natural talent." He tossed the filters back to me and took a step back, putting on this whole show of respecting true talent. "I won't kill you. In fact, I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'll give you a boarding pass to Shiwan Mountain. In return, you become my right-hand man. Help me build an apocalyptic business empire at the new settlement. What do you say?" I looked at his arrogant, condescending face. My mouth twitched into a scoff. "That's it? Not interested? You really think a crappy boarding pass is enough to make me your lapdog?" This guy had clearly been playing dictator for so long that it rotted his brain. Boss Peng's smile instantly froze. "So you'd rather do this the hard way, huh? I haven't gotten my hands dirty in over 10 years. Let's see if my martial arts have gotten rusty." The second the words left his mouth, Boss Peng slammed a brutal punch right into my chest. I let out a choked groan and smashed into the wall, my limbs going completely numb. I didn't even have the strength to lift my arm and draw my gun. Boss Peng slowly raised his dagger. He offered me one last chance, saying he was going to tell me a secret I'd definitely be interested in. The secret being that the authorities chose Shiwan Mountain as the settlement, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the high altitude. I quickly agreed. After all, staying alive was the top priority right now. But just as Boss Peng was about to reveal the secret, a massive clap of thunder suddenly exploded, completely drowning out his voice. Outside the window, the rain began pouring down in sheets. Boss Peng suddenly froze right where he stood, staring out the window in absolute terror. Impossible, how could that thing? I followed his gaze. In a flash of lightning, I saw it, a massive, dark shadow tearing through the towering waves on the pitch-black sea. It was swimming right toward our office building at terrifying speed. That wasn't a boat, it was alive. Suddenly, a deep, muffled boom echoed from the ocean floor, and the entire 30-story building shook violently. The floor instantly cracked open, and the slab holding our massive pile of supplies completely caved in. Boss Peng and I plummeted down with the rubble, right into the lobby on the 29th floor. The survivors down there were already screaming in panic when the ceiling suddenly gave way. Supplies and 2 grown men slammed hard onto the ground. As the dust cleared, Boss Peng, covered in dirt from the fall, scrambled to his feet. He spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva and pointed right at me. "You're pretty damn lucky. Now, finish them off. Consider it your initiation." I let out a cold sneer and slowly picked myself up. As feeling slowly returned to my fingers, I watched Peng charging right at me and suddenly spoke up. Have you ever heard the saying, "What's the fastest thing beyond 7 steps?" Peng gripped his dagger, his fleshy face twitching with rage. The very next second, he lunged, launching himself at me like a fired cannonball. A hit like that would shatter a normal guy's bones to pieces. But I didn't even flinch. With just a flick of my right wrist, a Type 64 pistol materialized right in my palm. I raised it and aimed in one buttery smooth motion. Beyond 7 steps, the gun is the fastest. But within 7 steps, the gun is fast and dead accurate. Peng's pupils shrank in sheer panic. You're playing dirty, but his whining was cut short by a crisp gunshot, echoing loudly through the dead silent lobby. He took that to his grave, never figuring out where the hell I had hidden that gun. The entire room froze in stunned silence. Those bloodthirsty maniacs stared at the gun in my hand, their faces draining of color as they scrambled away in sheer panic. But I didn't have time to deal with them. That massive roar from the ocean floor, that monstrous shadow. That was absolutely not something I could fight. I had to get the hell out of here, fast. But just as I was about to slip away in the chaos, 8 thugs armed with machetes exchanged a greedy look. And instantly surrounded me. No risk, no reward. One of them yelled, "If we get that gun, all the supplies and all the women in this building belong to us." Watching these scumbags close in on me, I clicked my tongue in heavy annoyance. Since you want to steal so badly, you can all just die here. Meanwhile, my mind was racing. I only had 6 bullets left. Against 8 guys spread out like this, there was no way I could pick them off one by one. Plus, bullets were way too precious to be wasted on cannon fodder like them. Taking a deep breath, I suddenly sprinted violently to the side. Bang! One shot rang out. The slowest thug on my flank dropped dead instantly. Before the others could even process it, the pistol in my hand vanished into thin air, instantly replaced by a heavy wood-chopping machete. Using my momentum, I slipped right between 2 of them like a total ghost. My blade was brutally precise. In just 2 seconds, 3 men hit the floor. The remaining 5 froze in absolute terror, their legs turning to jelly at my terrifying efficiency. Not a single one dared to take another step. But right at that moment, an even more violent, earth-shattering crash hit us. The entire office building violently tilted, the floor instantly dipping past 30 degrees. The survivors in the lobby lost their footing, sliding down the floor toward the shattered windows like rolling tin cans. The glass completely shattered, dozens of people plunged straight into the pitch-black ocean below, vanishing without even a splash, and I was sliding right down with them, totally out of control. With lightning-fast reflexes, I slammed my machete backhand straight into the floorboards. But the second I braced myself, some lunatic grabbed onto my leg. He was begging, clinging to me like a lifeline. I felt a massive dead weight drag me down. The machete groaned, barely holding up under the strain, and I was already hurting from that punch Mr. Peng gave me. Without a second thought, I kicked that guy right in the face. Watching him plummet into the ocean below, I didn't feel an ounce of pity. In this apocalypse, showing mercy will only get you killed. Meanwhile, the office building was tilting even worse now. The floor was practically turning into a wall, and my machete's handle was bending out of shape. I knew I couldn't just hang there. I looked up at the load-bearing pillar by the hallway entrance. With a single thought, my god-tier fishing rod appeared. I gripped it tight with my left hand, and whipped the rod with my right. The line zipped around the pillar, tying itself into a rock-solid knot. I wrapped the line around myself, yanked out the machete, and used it like an ice axe. I dragged myself up, inch by inch. Finally, I cleared the pillar and vaulted into the hallway. But before I could even celebrate, the entire top half of the building snapped clean off. The whole world flipped upside down. Weightlessness hit me, and I was violently slammed against the ceiling. Then I crashed hard right back to the floor. A second later, massive water pressure shattered the lobby glass. Freezing seawater instantly flooded the entire space. I was swept away in a flash, smashing into a hallway corner. My vision went black, and I nearly passed out on the spot. In that daze, I was pulled back to my past life. That desperate moment I was shoved off a boat and torn apart by sharks. Screw that, I didn't get a second chance at life just to end up drowning like a rat. A fierce will to live fueled me. Holding my last breath, I oriented myself in the murky water and swam for my life toward the windows at the end of the hall. Just over 20 meters left. With my lung capacity right now, if I push it to the limit, I can make it. But just as I kicked my legs, trying to swim up faster, a terrifying shift in the water current surged up right from beneath my feet. In a flash of lightning, I looked down into the abyss. A shadow so massive it made my blood run cold was rocketing up like a torpedo. A colossal mouth packed with razor-sharp teeth was aiming right at me. I was losing my freaking mind. All I wanted was a sip of clean water. Why is it that every single person and monster out here wants me dead? But I gritted my teeth, gripped my god-tier fishing rod, and prepared to fight for my life. Even if I die, I'm making this monster pay. I poured every last ounce of my strength into swinging that rod. The hook dug deep into the beast's flesh. Right then, a system notification chimed in. Fishing in progress. Host's stamina is fully depleted. Upon a successful catch, host will enter a deep coma. I just chuckled and let go of the rod. Everything started fading to black. I honestly didn't know if I'd make it out alive, or what kind of miracle that last hook would pull up for me. I have no idea how long I was out. I eventually woke up bathed in a soft white light. The feeling of suffocating was completely gone, replaced by a strange, comforting warmth. Without thinking, I squeezed whatever was in my hand. It was incredibly soft, and felt amazing. But right at that moment, an embarrassed, utterly arrogant, and ethereal woman's voice echoed directly in my mind. "You filthy bastard, how dare you lay your hands on me? If it weren't for those damn binding rules, I would never accept a lowly creature like you as my master. Mark my words, one day, I will eat you alive." And with that, my cheek got slapped incredibly hard. A blinding pain hit me, and my body plummeted, plunging back into darkness. The next day, birdsong woke me up. I found myself lying in the familiar cabin of my boat. Outside, the sea was calm, and the weather was beautiful. A complete 180 from last night's raging storm. I tried hard to piece together what happened last night. The building collapsing, falling into the ocean, getting swallowed by that sea monster. And that weird dream, but the details were all a blur. I only remember a woman yelling at me. I summoned my god-tier fishing rod. The system panel just showed one extra fishing attempt. No new items at all. My proficiency and sanity stats hadn't changed either. I was totally clueless. Just as I touched my left cheek, a sharp sting hit me. I caught my reflection in the window glass, and I froze. The left side of my face was swollen red, with a clear handprint slapped right across it. The fingers were small and slender. It was definitely a woman's hand. She hit me so hard she almost knocked my soul out. But what shocked me even more was right over my carotid artery on the right side of my neck. There were 3 glowing, aqua blue scale patterns. They were branded deep into my skin, faintly pulsing with every breath I took. I couldn't scratch them off at all. I was completely mind blown. I was the only one on the boat. Where did a woman's handprint and these weird tattoos come from? Did that sea monster spit me out last night? Was I saved by some mystery woman? And slapped in the face, too? I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I shoved the questions aside for now. I patted my pocket. The 5 water filters were still perfectly intact. No matter what happened, as long as I'm alive, I can figure it out later. The top priority now was building a water purifier. I needed to solve my drinking water problem. Stepping out of the cabin, I pulled out the blueprint. I had the main component, the filters, and the secondary materials were all gathered too. All I was missing was crushed charcoal and a plastic bottle. Plastic bottles were floating everywhere on the ocean. The hard part was the charcoal. I remembered a survival video I used to watch. You can make charcoal through dry distillation. So, I summoned my god-tier fishing rod again. Fished up a rusty iron bucket, a plastic bottle, and an empty tin can from the water, and started making a makeshift charcoal kiln. But just as I was about to split some wood, my machete suddenly snapped in half. Using it as a climbing pick last night had completely ruined it. It was totally junked. I didn't let it get me down. I used the broken blade as a wedge, and a block of wood as a hammer. I brute forced my way into splitting a pile of wood strips, then stuffed them right into the empty tin can. I flipped it upside down in the middle of the iron bucket and lit some wood shavings. Boom, a mini dry distillation kiln. While the charcoal was burning, I took out my last half bottle of water and took a tiny sip. Then, I got back to fishing. After all, in the apocalypse, you can never have too many supplies. 5 hours later, at 1 p.m., I was sitting by the railing when the fishing rod suddenly bent into a perfect arch. I flexed my arms and reeled the line in steadily. Suddenly, a greenish-gray orb of light burst out of the water. It slammed onto the deck. Fishing successful. Acquired 1 high-performance tactical diving suit, 5 proficiency points, and 2 sanity points. I was absolutely thrilled. This diving suit was stab-resistant and temperature-controlled. It even came with an oxygen tank, motorized fins, and a headlamp. Out here on the endless ocean, this was literally a second life. I quickly stored the diving suit in my spatial ring. I took stock of the rest of my morning catch, a carbon steel crowbar and a waterproof jacket and pants set. Finally, I could get out of these torn clothes, covered in salt crust that was rubbing my skin raw. After changing, I walked over to the iron bucket and used the crowbar to flip the tin can back over. The wood strips inside had turned into pitch black, lightweight pieces of charcoal. I hurried over to the workbench in the cabin, dumped all the materials on it, and yelled, "Craft basic drip freshwater purifier." The next second, a faint glow lit up the workbench. A few seconds later, a bizarrely shaped purifier appeared right in front of me. Output efficiency, 40 to 45 milliliters per hour. Filtration precision, 0.0001 microns. It could produce safe, drinkable fresh water. Carefully, I hung the purifier on the window frame. I set a plastic cup underneath, poured in the murky seawater, and watched it slowly turn crystal clear. Sitting cross-legged on my bed, I stared unblinkingly at the output tube. Finally, a single, crystal-clear drop of water fell. That little drip sounded like absolute music in the dead silent cabin. I knew that was the sound of hope. 4 hours passed. As the sky grew dark, the plastic cup had collected about 150 milliliters of pure fresh water. With trembling hands, I picked up the cup, tilted my head back, and downed it all in one gulp. Instantly, every cell in my body screamed with joy. In that moment, my eyes welled up with tears again. Only those who have truly faced despair could understand just how precious this half cup of water was. It wasn't just water, it was my absolute ticket to survival. But right then, a low rumble of thunder echoed outside the window. Through a flash of lightning, I saw the dark clouds on the distant horizon. They were even thicker than last night. Another massive storm was coming. I knew it deep down. The butterfly effect of my rebirth had already made this world far more dangerous than I remembered. Mutated fish appearing way too early, terrifying giant shadows in the abyss, endless storms. The path ahead was only going to get harder. I set the cup back down. My gaze heavily shifted to the broken diesel engine next to the workbench. The water situation was handled. Next up was power and food. If I only relied on wooden oars to row this boat, I wouldn't even have a chance to escape when danger hit. Clenching my fists, my eyes grew determined. I had to fix that engine as soon as possible, then head to the West Huan Mountain stronghold to scavenge for more supplies and opportunities. In this life, I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to live better than anyone else. Meanwhile, inside a high-rise apartment in the Fengjiang Gardens, Chen Zi was slumped on the couch. He was clutching an empty water bottle, desperately trying to shake a few drops into his mouth. His lips were completely chapped, peeling with dead skin, and his throat burned from the dryness. Chu Xin was holding a fruit knife, cutting up old apple peels from the trash, trying to suck out whatever moisture was left. Clutched a weak little poodle, staring blankly at the dark clouds outside, complaining. When the hell is this going to end? But what they didn't know was that far out on the ocean, I had already found my hope for survival. As for them, how were they even going to stay alive? Just then, Chen Zi smashed the empty bottle onto the floor. The next second, he screamed at the top of his lungs. We drank that filthy rainwater, now we're puking and throwing our guts up. And the damn toilet is backing up. This garbage building is a literal floating coffin. Chu Xin huddled in the corner and spoke up timidly. If only Lu Fan were still alive. He definitely had a ton of supplies with him. Those words instantly ignited Chen Zi's fury. Lu Fan, that's all you ever talk about, Lu Fan. He suddenly shot up, the veins popping in his hands. Glaring viciously at Chu Xin, he snarled, that bastard is long dead at the bottom of the sea. Counting on him to bring us water is a pipe dream. He spun around and dragged out a flat, two-person inflatable raft. He shot a ruthless glare at Chu Xin and Tomorrow morning, as soon as the rain stops, we're going to the pier to find a yacht. If you don't go, you can just sit here and die of thirst. Was trembling all over in fear, not daring to argue back. That night, the three of them took turns pumping up the raft, gambling everything they had on that tiny, slim chance of survival. But little did they know, the guy Chen Zi cursed to die at sea was lying right here in the cabin of this wooden boat, waking up to the first rays of morning sun. Under the water purifier I'd kept running all night, a plastic cup was already brimming with crystal clear fresh water. A heavy, solid 500 milliliters. In this apocalyptic world where fresh water is worth 100 times more than gold. This single cup was enough to make people kill for it. I held my breath, cupping it as carefully as I could. Fighting the intense urge to chug it all down, I poured every last drop into a sealed thermos. With this water purifier, even if I drifted at sea for a whole year, I definitely wouldn't turn into a dried-up corpse. Meanwhile, my boat had drifted powerless all night, and somehow carried me straight to the West District of V-City. That flashy, famous song entertainment skyscraper was sitting just 1 kilometer to my left, only 5 or 6 kilometers away from the old Fengjiang Garden. I stared at that building, feeling absolutely nothing. Whether Chen Zi and Chu Xin lived or died didn't matter to me anymore. Right now, my top priority was fixing that busted diesel engine. But the repair manual popping up on the workbench hit me like a ton of bricks. An alloy crankshaft, high-pressure fuel injectors, and a sealed piston ring set. All crucial, missing parts. That's when it hit me. Right near the Song building, there was a massive hardware and machinery market, even drowned 50 meters underwater. Those heavy machine parts definitely wouldn't have washed away. I pulled out my high-performance combat diving suit from storage. I scarfed down my last half-pack of beef jerky for energy, then quickly geared up in the full dive suit. I took a deep breath and plunged straight in. The suit's temperature control system instantly locked in my body heat, and the crushing water pressure was mostly neutralized. I slipped through the water like a fish, my 5,000 lumen headlamp piercing right through the pitch black. But I completely missed what was hiding in the shadows nearby. A pair of massive, glowing red, demonic eyes. They were locked dead onto my silhouette. With a flick of its thick tentacles, the creature silently began to tail me. 50 meters down, the dead silence was absolutely terrifying. Nothing but the heavy hiss of my breathing valve, and the steady gurgling of bubbles. The old asphalt roads were now deep trenches, completely choked with thick mud and seaweed. Smashed luxury cars were piled up everywhere. It was a sure sign that giant sea monsters were prowling around. Gripping my crowbar tight, I didn't waste a single second, swimming frantically toward the hardware market. But when I finally reached the entrance, I found the metal roll-up door jammed completely shut. I jammed the crowbar right into the gap, planted my feet solid, and pulled with everything I had. A door I could have popped open easily up on land felt impossible 50 meters deep. I gritted my teeth, forcing the leverage inch by brutal inch. Over 10 long minutes later, a sharp crack echoed as the rails finally bent, prying open just enough of a gap for one person to squeeze through. But when I checked my oxygen gauge, 20 minutes had already passed since I dove in. The tank only had 40 minutes left, which meant the time I had to actually search was a mere 20 minutes. I wriggled into the wrecked, chaotic shop, and made a beeline for the only counter still standing. Thank God, I found the high-pressure injectors safe in a sealed plastic box. And over on a corner workbench, an unopened set of sealed piston rings. But after tearing through the entire inventory, that crucial alloy crankshaft was nowhere to be seen. Right then, my oxygen alarm started blaring wildly. I only had 6 minutes of air left. I didn't hesitate, just snatched up the parts one had. I shoved them into my pack and made a break for the exit gap. But halfway through, a massive, dark shadow loomed out of the murky water just 10 meters away. My heart dropped, thinking it was a great white. I instinctively held my breath and killed my headlamp, trying to hide in the pitch black. But the shadow seemed to see right through it. Its massive head turned, staring dead at me. Crimson eyes locked dead onto me. I instantly flicked on my headlamp. The second the beam hit that dark figure, I gasped in horror. This was no great white. Its upper half was a mutated shark, with pale gray skin, and its gills flared out, covered in razor-sharp bone spikes. But its lower half had no tail fin at all. Instead, it had 7 or 8 massive, dark red octopus tentacles, with suckers the size of huge bowls. Every thrash churned up clouds of muddy sand. This thing was an absolute freak of nature. The octo shark was enraged by the bright light, and a high-frequency vibration rumbled from its throat. A visible shockwave of water blasted outward. My eardrums screamed in pain, and my head was ringing. I felt like I was smashed by a sledgehammer and completely lost my balance. Before I could even catch my breath, the octo shark slammed its massive body right into the roller door. The heavy metal crumpled inward like cheap paper. A second later, the door was ripped wide open, and the monster's hideous head squeezed right in. Its bloody jaws snapped wildly at the water. I scrambled backward in a panic, using my power fins to desperately dodge its attacks. But when it rains, it pours. The oxygen alarm started blaring faster and faster. I only had 1 minute of air left. To make matters worse, my power fins violently shuddered, totally overloading and forcing themselves into cooldown mode. As soon as I slowed down, the churning water caught up to me. The octo shark's bloody jaws were just inches away. Just as I tried to swim away, it clamped its jaws hard around my left leg. My dive suit's heavy-duty armor was ripped through like wet tissue. Those razor-sharp teeth pierced the armor and dug deep into my flesh. An agonizing pain instantly shot through my entire body. I convulsed in absolute agony, but I wasn't going to just give up and die. I swung my crowbar and stabbed viciously at its eye, but with a loud clang, the metal bar just bounced right off. This freak's eyelids were actually shielded by a layer of transparent, solid bone. The strike still hurt it, making the beast even more frantic. It thrashed its hideous head wildly, trying to rip my leg clean off. 3 thick tentacles slithered around my waist and arms, squeezing tighter and tighter. The choking lack of air and blinding pain hit me all at once. My vision started fading to black. I could hear my own bones cracking under the crushing pressure. The Grim Reaper's scythe was resting right on my neck. But just when I thought I was dead for sure, those 3 dormant, emerald scale marks on the back of my neck suddenly flared up with a searing heat. A boiling surge of energy flooded my entire body in an instant. Suddenly, a blinding emerald shockwave blasted outward in a massive ring, with me at the center. The octo shark that was locking its jaws on me was blown 5 or 6 meters back, violently slamming against the hard wall. I clutched my bleeding thigh and collapsed into the mud, gasping desperately for air. When I looked up, right in front of me, floated a glowing, humanoid silhouette made of emerald light. Judging by the tall, elegant curves, it was definitely the outline of a woman. The octo shark quickly steadied itself. Seeing its prey slip away, the monster went totally berserk. Its pale gray skin instantly flushed blood red. Its body swelled up like a giant balloon, growing several times its original size. Every single bone spike on its back stood straight up. It was going into a full, phase 2 frenzy. But facing down this horrifying beast, that glowing emerald silhouette simply tilted her head. An ethereal female voice, dripping with absolute, bone-chilling arrogance, echoed through the water. A pathetic little mutt that hasn't even evolved yet. How dare you act so recklessly before me? As her voice faded, the emerald figure pointed a single, slender finger through the water. A breathtakingly pure wave of emerald light exploded outward in a massive fan shape. The dark, murky ocean floor was instantly illuminated. The brilliant green halo kept spreading, completely lighting up that entire stretch of the ocean. Meanwhile, up on the surface, Chen Zi, Chu Xin, and the second ant were struggling to row their inflatable raft through the waves. That massive underwater blast triggered huge, towering waves. The rubber raft was tossed into the air like a dead leaf. The whole group, humans and dog alike, plunged violently into the raging sea and vanished without a single trace. This insane shockwave even triggered the alarms at the Shihuan Mountain outpost, over 300 kilometers away. Red lights flashed wildly as a level 1 alarm blared out, up on the top floor of the Song Corporation building. Song Han also witnessed this apocalyptic phenomenon. The underwater hardware market, along with its steel foundation, was completely obliterated by that wave of light. It left behind nothing but a massive, smooth crater on the ocean floor. That arrogant Stage 2 octo shark was vaporized. Not even a single speck of dust was left behind. It turned into a mist of blood, dissolving into the sea, as the emerald halo slowly faded away. Then, that hazy figure walked right up to me. "You useless piece of trash. A pathetic little bug like you actually made me waste one of my protective scales. I must be cursed with the absolute worst luck in the world. To be dragged down by a loser like you." Her cold, ghostly hand violently grabbed my chin. Her hollow eyes stared at me with endless resentment. "You better value your miserable life. If you die and damage my core, even if the heavens strike me down, I will personally rip your soul to shreds. I will make sure you never see the light of day again. Do you understand? The sheer pressure of her aura hit me so hard, my heart nearly stopped. I could only nod frantically. The woman let out a cold scoff, and vanished into tiny specks of starlight. With her gone, the protective sphere of light shattered into pieces. Freezing seawater instantly flooded in. That was when I realized. My oxygen tank was completely empty. Out of pure instinct, I kicked my legs, only to realize the agonizing pain in them was completely gone. I looked down. My diving suit had a massive hole in it, but the skin underneath was smooth and flawless. There wasn't even a single scar. But I had no time to marvel at it. My powered fins had finally cooled down, so I used them to shoot up to the surface at full speed, frantically grabbing the railing and hauling myself onto the deck. I greedily gasped for fresh air, a cold shiver running straight down my back. My hands and feet wouldn't stop shaking. Trembling, I reached up to touch my neck. Out of the 3 emerald scale marks, only 2 were left. The bottom one had completely vanished, leaving behind only a faint red mark. So, these were 3 chances to save my life, and I had already wasted one of them. But, who exactly was that mysterious woman? To split the sea with a single finger, to command the elements so effortlessly. That kind of power is way beyond human comprehension. But before I could even catch my breath from the shock, I heard the sound of rowing coming from the water nearby. A rubber dinghy was heading straight for me. There were 2 muscular thugs sitting inside. They were holding homemade spears and machetes, looking like absolute bad news. I tuned in to their conversation. The scruffy guy in the back was whining about how crappy their boat was, while the bald guy in the front just laughed. He said they were going to knock me out, drag me back, and split all the supplies on my boat between the 2 of them. After all, young Master Song wouldn't care anyway. The 2 of them quickly hopped onto the deck. The bald guy banged the back of his machete against the railing and barked arrogantly, "Hey, kid. Young Master Song thinks highly of you. He wants to invite you up for a little chat. But first, hand over everything you've got. Especially the food. If you dare to hide anything, I'll break your damn legs." I had held my breath underwater for way too long. The lack of oxygen left my chest heaving violently. I just narrowed my eyes and stayed silent. Losing his patience, the scruffy guy stepped forward to search me. But the moment he took a step, bang, a loud gunshot rang out, making the entire deck vibrate. A bloody hole instantly appeared right in the middle of his forehead. The bald guy froze in absolute shock. His legs gave out, and he dropped to his knees on the steel deck, kowtowing like a maniac. "Boss, it's a misunderstanding. A huge misunderstanding. Young Master Song saw you out here all alone. He was worried you'd be in danger, so he sent us to back you up." I walked over to him, completely expressionless, and pressed the barrel of my gun right against his forehead. "Who exactly sent you, and what are you trying to do?" Trembling, the bald guy pointed at the Song Corporation building, his words spilling out faster than a machine gun. But I didn't buy that pathetic lie for a second. I slowly looked up, straight toward the top floor of the Song Corporation building. Even from way over here, I could feel someone's eyes locking onto my spot. I lowered my gun. The bald guy had barely let out a sigh of relief. When I flipped my left hand, making a hex crowbar appear out of nowhere, and smashed it right into his skull. He didn't even get a chance to scream. He just dropped dead, stiff as a board. I dumped him straight into the ocean and sneered to myself, like hell I'd let you run back and snitch. I'm not stupid. That gunshot was the perfect warning. For a while at least, those bastards from the Song Corporation building won't dare mess with a ruthless guy packing heat. Absolutely exhausted, I crashed hard. When I finally woke up, my stomach was growling like crazy. I'd been surviving on beef jerky and spicy strips these past few days. The calorie deficit was just way too massive. I must have lost over 10 pounds. I grabbed my god-tier fishing rod and sat my ass down on the deck. Honestly, if it weren't for the ruined world all around me, this would actually feel a bit like a vacation. While I was zoning out staring at the bobber, the corpse of Chu Xin's aunt drifted right up to the side of my boat. That mean, bitter face. Oh, I remember it perfectly. In my past life, it was her standing on the boat, watching me get torn apart by sharks without lifting a damn finger. I raised an eyebrow, grabbed a wooden oar, and jabbed the body hard, pushing it away. In the last life, you watched me become shark food. In this life, enjoy the taste of the ocean. Meanwhile, a few miles away on the open water, Chen Zi and Chu Xin had lost their boat, along with all their supplies. Chu Xin's relentless bitching made Chen Zi completely snap. He slapped her hard across the face. With nowhere left to turn, the two of them finally decided to head to the Song Corporation building to gamble for their lives. Back on my end, my fishing finally brought a surprise. The line suddenly sank heavy, and I yanked the rod up, reeling it in. A black gift box with gold lettering landed on the deck. A premium A5 Wagyu beef barbecue combo. My eyes went wide. I hugged the box tightly and ducked straight into the cabin. Right on cue, a light drizzle started falling outside. I cleared off the random parts on my workbench, set up the disposable self-heating grill, and ripped open the packaging. 2 hand-sized cuts of ribeye were resting on the tray. That red and white marbling looked like an absolute masterpiece. I lit the quick-burn charcoal and rubbed on some butter. The creamy scent of the melting butter instantly exploded inside the cabin. I tossed the Wagyu right onto the grill. Sizzle, the fat bubbled up. That intense, mouth-watering meat aroma mixed with the smoky scent of fruitwood filled my entire nose. I popped open a can of ice-cold Coke. The dim, yellow flame of the candle danced against the backdrop of the rain. One bite of that crispy, tender Wagyu, and one sip of freezing Coke. Rich meat juices literally exploded in my mouth. The refreshing fizz washed down my throat. That ultimate feeling of satisfaction made every pore on my body relax. But right at this very moment, up on the top floor of the Song Corporation building, Song Han and Uncle Zong's dinner was nothing but a sliced tin of Spam, and some dry, stale bread. Oh, and half a glass of red wine that had breathed way too long. Song Han had been watching me through his binoculars all damn afternoon. He just thought I was fishing for ocean trash, sighing, "This poor kid is drifting all alone out there, starving and thirsty. Probably has nothing better to do but sleep." Honestly, if I offered him a single bite of this canned meat right now, he'd probably lose his damn mind with joy. Little did that idiot know, inside my little wooden boat just a mile away, I was tearing into a top-tier feast he couldn't even dream of. As the night's heavy storm finally passed, Chen Zi and Chu Xin were left stranded in the ruins. They hadn't found their yacht, and all their supplies were totally gone. Blaming each other back and forth, they eventually followed the broadcast signal straight to the Song Corporation building. Meanwhile, I was stressing over a pile of mechanical parts. I had the high-pressure fuel injectors and piston rings, but I was still missing the alloy crankshaft. Right as I was racking my brain on where to find one, the goons from the Song building came knocking again. This time, it was an old guy wearing a traditional tunic. He introduced himself as Zhang Zhang, one of Song Han's guys. I furrowed my brow, my right hand hovering, ready to strike. A crowbar materialized right in my hand. Did they seriously send an old geezer to his grave? But the old man just tapped his foot, sinking the wooden boat slightly, and leapt up like a massive bird taking flight. He landed flawlessly on the deck. My eyes went wide in pure shock. This old guy was a trained fighter. He moved like a ghost, closing the distance in a flash. His withered hand locked onto my wrist like a steel trap, twisting and pinning it down in one smooth motion. I screamed in agony. Ow, ow, ow. Okay, I surrender. That's when I realized this old man might look frail, but his strength was absolutely insane. Zhang Zhang let go of me and spoke calmly. I did not come here with any hostile intentions. I am here on behalf of young Master Song to make a deal. What caught his eye is your ability to survive that massive tsunami. He wants you on his side. I went quiet for a moment. In the early days of the apocalypse, capable people were exactly what the big factions needed most. And a place like the Song Tower might just have the alloy crankshaft I so desperately needed. Rather than running around blind like a headless chicken, I might as well try my luck in the Dragon's Den. Even if the deal went south, making a run for it wouldn't be an issue. I agreed on the spot, but I laid down 2 hard rules. Number 1, once we go up there, if anyone touches this boat, they're dead meat. Number 2, if the deal falls through, don't even think about keeping me hostage. Push me, and I'll risk my own life to drag your precious young Master Song straight to hell with me. Zhang Zhang gave a slight nod and agreed without hesitation. I followed him up the Song Tower. We arrived at a reception room on the 50th floor. There, I finally met Song Han. He was dressed in a sleek navy blue suit and gold-rimmed glasses, looking completely refined and elegant. And the woman right beside him? It was actually the famous national movie star, Shen Qingyue. She had big wavy hair, a tight curve-hugging dress, and a smoking hot body, but she looked annoyed as hell. She clearly wanted to play the arrogant superstar card. Seeing my blank stare, she let out a cold scoff and said, "My face is plastered on the downtown LED screens every single day." I suddenly caught on and flashed a cheeky grin. Oh, the big superstar. Now I remember. Back in the day, late at night, I used to have a whole lot of dirty thoughts while looking at your photos. The moment those words left my mouth, the room went dead silent. Shen Qingyu's face flushed beet red. She pointed a trembling finger at me, absolutely furious. "You filthy creep." I completely ignored her, turning back to Song Han as my smile faded. "Let's skip the pleasantries, young Master Song. I'm a simple guy, I only care about the deal." Song Han pushed up his glasses and told Shen Qingyu to sit down. He clapped his hands, and a female assistant brought out 4 plates of food. Everyone got 2 thick slices of luncheon meat and 2 pieces of bread. Shen Qingyu stabbed her meat with a fork, glaring at me with pure disgust. "This is premium quality spam, you know. You've probably never tasted anything this good in your entire pathetic life. Young Master Song is rewarding you, so you better hurry up and say thank you." I just gave her a look, like she was a total idiot. Acting this high and mighty over some canned meat? You really haven't seen the world. While speaking, I reached behind my back and pulled out a freezing cold, frosty can of cola. What's the point of just choking down dry bread? For a huge boss like you, young Master Song, making your guests bring their own drinks is a bit cheap, don't you think? The fork slipped right out of Shen Qingyu's hand, clattering onto her plate. She stared dead at that can of cola. She swallowed hard, completely losing her composure. This glorious, high-sugar happy water. She had practically begged Song Han for it countless times, but he kept saying supplies were tight and refused to let her have any. Song Han tried his best to play it cool. He ordered Zhang Zhang to fetch 3 cans of cola from the supply room. Zhang Zhang politely declined his drink. Just as Song Han was about to put it away, I snatched it right out of his hands. "Oh man, you're too kind, young Master Song. If the old man doesn't want it, I'll take it off his hands. Can't let good stuff go to waste." With that, I cracked open both cans, tilted my head back, and chugged them both down at the same time. When I was done, I let out a massive, echoing burp. "Ah, that hits the spot. Got any more? Hit me with another 2 cans. Song Han gripped his fork so hard his eye twitched. This wasn't a negotiation, it was straight up extortion. But he had to swallow his pride to win me over. Song Han finally cut to the chase about the octo shark. "That octo shark out there has killed a lot of our scavengers. After that crazy storm yesterday. Since you survived, you must know its weak spots. I need your help to kill it." I put down my Coke, chewing on some spam. "Let's skip the sob story. Tell me what's in it for me." Song Han smirked. "Name your price and supplies. I'm actually looking for a long-term partnership with you. All the way to Mount Shiwan. I didn't beat around the bush. I need an alloy crankshaft. Plus, enough food and fresh water. Everything else is just hot air." Hearing this, Song Han nodded. "There's a busted diesel engine in the generator room downstairs. It'll take some time to pull the crankshaft out. As long as we're partners, you'll never go hungry or thirsty." I agreed without hesitation. "You're the boss, Song. It's a deal. Now that I'm full, let's head out." Shen Qingyu's eyes went wide. "Don't you need to let your food settle?" I gave her a breezy, teasing look. "I'm just going to kill a half-dead fish. What's there to settle?" When we reached the survivor staging area on floor 40, Song Han assigned over a dozen beefy divers to back me up. But I just shook my head, pointing to a corner. I pointed at the youngest, most terrified-looking pair, Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying. A big group is just a big target. It'll spook the beast. Just these 2 are coming with me. The crowd instantly blew up at that. A huge guy stepped up and roared, "Listen here, kid. Stop acting like a tough guy. That octo shark is a monster. And you're just taking 2 weaklings down there? If you want to die, fine. But don't drag them down with you." I shot him a cold glare and scoffed. "All muscle, no brains. Who'd be stupid enough to throw their life away? It's called tactics. Got it?" Zhang Zhang suddenly barked an order. No one dared to say another word. Trembling, Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying stepped forward. They followed me to get changed into wetsuits. Down at the flooded zone on floor 25, I was double-checking my spear gun while those 2 huddled on the stairs, shivering like leaves. "Listen up," I warned them. "Once we're in the water, you follow my orders to the letter. No wandering off, or I swear, even God won't be able to save you. But that was the final straw for them. Zhou Sheng buried his head in his hands, bawling. I saw that monster tear our captain in half with my own eyes. There's only 3 of us. How are we supposed to survive? Wang Ying started sobbing too, crying that she didn't want to die. I looked at the 2 of them and sighed heavily. With nerves like this, it was a miracle they'd survived this long. But honestly, this was exactly what I wanted. I suddenly slapped on a brave, tragic look, slinging the spear gun over my shoulder. You 2, just stay here. They both froze. Wang Ying stared in disbelief. But, going down there alone is suicide. I stood up tall, keeping my eyes dead serious. Someone's gotta do it. If I don't walk into the fire, who will? If humanity's going to survive, if there's even a shred of hope in this damned wasteland, then this risk is nothing. Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying were completely blown away. Overcome with shame and total awe, Zhou Sheng wiped his snotty nose. Brother Lu, I'm going with you. Wang Ying nodded right along with him. Me too, but I barked at them, shutting it down. Nonsense, you kids are way too young. You've got your whole lives ahead of you. You think it's your place to pull a suicidal stunt like this? Zhou Sheng muttered under his breath. But Brother Lu, you're not that old either. I let out a weathered, dramatic laugh, looking up at the ceiling. Back in my day, I've roamed the north and conquered the south. I've even played chicken on the train tracks. I've even survived drinking out of a toilet. You kids can't even begin to compare to what I've been through. With that said, I strapped on my respirator and took a fearless dive straight into the freezing seawater. I left Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying bawling their eyes out on the shore, screaming, Brother Lu, you have to come back alive. Meanwhile, underwater, I was shaking my head and scoffing. Man, young kids are just too easy to fool. Because I never actually planned on fighting that octoshark. I just needed a spot to grind my fishing count. And maybe grab some stuff to fake a fight. I swam around to the AC unit platform at the back of the Song family building. It was a total blind spot here, nobody was going to see me. Then, I summoned my god-tier fishing rod and cast my line. But for 8 tries in a row, all I reeled in was pure junk. Only a single pack of crackers and 1 apple were actually edible. I was losing my mind, gritting my teeth as I muttered, this is the very last time. Come on, please give me something good. Suddenly, the line jerked down hard. I thought it was just more trash. But then a massive weight hit the rod. This thing felt alive. It was biting the hook hard, thrashing wildly. I instantly snapped to attention, flexing my muscles to wrestle this beast. 5 or 6 minutes later, the tension on the rod vanished. With a huge splash, a glowing, pinkish-white orb burst out of the water and landed right on the platform. It was a tiny pink dolphin, only about the length of my arm. It was entirely pink and white, with skin as smooth as jade. And right in the middle of its cute, chubby forehead, there was a spiral horn, about the size of a finger. It just stared at me with these huge, innocent, watery eyes. A system prompt popped up. This is a juvenile deep-sea dragon dolphin. Capable of evolution, current tier, lifestyle, potential tier, mutant power. The horn on its head can pierce straight through steel plates. Maximum underwater speed, 30 knots. Once fully grown, it can control the weather and become the absolute apex predator of any waters. I was absolutely thrilled and gently poked the little dolphin on the forehead. Holy crap, it's a literal god-tier beast. I decided to name the little guy Little White. Little White took a liking to me instantly, but then he actually started rubbing his snout right against my crotch. I panicked and shoved him away. Hey, are you a boy or a girl? Don't just go acting like a pervert the second we meet. Little White's eyes welled up with tears, looking totally heartbroken. I sighed and gently patted him to calm him down. In a flash, Little White's mood completely flipped, and his tail started wagging like a damn propeller. Noticing it was getting pretty late, I pointed down at the seawater. Little White, go fetch me an octopus or a shark, would you? Little White blinked his big eyes, and whoosh, he darted into the water like a streak of pink lightning. Less than 5 minutes later, he burst back out of the water, clamping down on an octopus as tall as a full-grown man. He even had a completely dead great white shark slung over his back. He tossed his prey right at my feet, puffing out his chest and looking up at me for praise. I sucked in a sharp breath. With that size difference, his combat power was absolutely insane. I sliced off one of the octopus tentacles and a shark fin. I slashed up my diving suit a few times to make it look convincing, kicked the carcasses back into the sea, and ordered Little White. You can eat the rest of the meat. Once you're done, go hide somewhere near my boat. Do not come out until I say so. Little White affectionately nudged the palm of my hand, then dragged his food down into the deep sea. Meanwhile, way up on the top floor of the Song family building, Shen Qingyue was already losing her mind waiting. She scoffed at Song Han. It's been 4 hours already. That country bumpkin is probably dead at the bottom of the ocean. You're the only idiot still waiting around for him. Song Han frowned deeply, his confidence totally fading away. But right then, Zhang Zhang spoke up. I just can't see through him, but that confidence he had before he left. It wasn't faked. Maybe he really does have an ace up his sleeve. Meanwhile, Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying had been waiting in the flooded area for 4.5 hours. They thought I was dead for sure, and were just about to go find Uncle Zhang. When suddenly, bubbling sounds came from the water behind them. My head shot out of the water, gasping heavily for air. Whoa, don't hit me, sister-in-law. It's me, bro. I led them back up to the survivor camp on the 40th floor. The atmosphere there was incredibly tense. Some were wiping away tears, saying I had gotten Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying killed, while others were loudly demanding an explanation from Song Han. Shen Qingyue covered her nose in disgust. Young Master Song, you really took a massive loss on this deal. That country bumpkin probably abandoned ship and ran away. Song Han's fists, hidden behind his back, clenched slightly. Could he have really misjudged him? Right at that moment, the rusty back door slowly creaked open. I walked out, completely soaked to the bone, with several huge, gaping holes torn into my diving suit. But there was absolutely no one behind me. That big, burly guy the first had intimidated earlier suddenly charged forward, grabbing me by the collar and roaring, "Lu, you bastard! Where are those 2 kids?" Everyone suddenly realized what was going on. I had come back all alone, which meant I must have used Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying as bait and abandoned them. The crowd's anger instantly spiraled out of control. Just as the burly guy's fist was about to smash into my face, Song Han said coldly, "Forget it, just consider me totally blind for trusting him." But right as the fist was about to land, bang, the back door was kicked wide open. Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying charged in, carrying a giant octopus tentacle and a shark's fin, yelling at the top of their lungs. "Stop right there. What gives you the right to hit my brother Lu?" Everyone froze in shock. I slowly and calmly straightened my collar and pointed at the tentacle on the floor. "This is an octopus leg." Then, I pointed at the severed shark fin, sneering at the burly guy. "And this one, is you." The burly guy looked completely baffled. "This is me?" I nodded completely deadpan. "Yeah, a giant shark ass. Who else could it be?" Someone in the crowd couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. The burly guy's face turned beet red with anger, his fists cracking loudly as he clenched them. But looking at the massive, severed octopus limbs on the floor, he didn't dare utter a single word. Who would dare mess with a ruthless guy capable of killing a monster like that? Zhang Zhang squatted down, inspected the severed limbs, and nodded. "This flesh is incredibly tough and emits a vicious aura. These are definitely the traits of an octoshark." The moment he said that, the whole room erupted. Everyone immediately looked at me like I was some kind of god. Shen Qingyu's eyes went wide, covering her red lips in shock. She couldn't believe that an ordinary-looking guy like me could actually single-handedly kill an octoshark. I just walked forward and patted Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying on the shoulders, putting on a humble face. Actually, I just got really lucky. If these 2 hadn't risked their lives to distract the monster and create an opening for me, there's no way I could have pulled it off. Zhou Sheng and Wang Ying were instantly dumbfounded. The 2 of them had literally almost wet their pants in fear at the stairwell. But before they could even explain, they were swarmed by the crowd, who excitedly praised them as absolute heroes. I nodded in satisfaction. Whoever wants this empty fame can have it. I only care about the real, tangible rewards. Song Han was absolutely thrilled, and brought me upstairs to discuss my payment. Suddenly, a troubled look crossed his face. "The structure of that diesel generator is way too complicated. Taking apart the crankshaft requires specialized tools and a lot of time. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to wait one more night." As he spoke, he clapped his hands. 4 incredibly hot, top-tier massage therapists walked into the room, holding essential oils and towels. Song Han gave me a sly, suggestive smile. "Tonight, Just stay here and get completely relaxed. First thing tomorrow morning, I will personally hand over that crankshaft to you." I scoffed to myself. Song Han, that sly old fox. He thinks he can butter me up, keep me locked up, and slowly brainwash me. In my past life, I might have actually fallen for it. But now, I just played along. Well, since Mr. Song is being so generous, it'd be rude of me to refuse. Once it gets dark, I'm gonna snatch that crankshaft and bail. Let's see who tries to stop me. As night fell, a fine drizzle began to mist the air. Chen Zi and Chu Xin, paddling their inflatable raft, finally dragged themselves to the Song family building. They were totally soaked to the bone and starving. After a pat down, the guards confirmed they were unarmed, and let them inside. The second they stepped through the doors, a wave of warmth hit their faces. A massive bonfire was blazing right there in the lobby, and people were roasting meat. That rich, smoky smell of seafood made their mouths water instantly. Another survivor handed them 2 skewers of grilled octopus. "You guys are super lucky, getting a bonus meal right when you show up. This is all thanks to our building's big hero, Lu Fan. He brought in today's catch." Chen Zi and Chu Xin were practically swallowing the food whole. But the second they heard my name, they froze like they'd been struck by lightning. Pure, unadulterated rage flared up in Chen Zi's eyes. He probably never imagined in a million years that I would ditch them to live in the lap of luxury. And right at that moment, up in the 48th floor luxury suite, I was lounging on a massive king-sized bed in a silk bathrobe. I was enjoying a massage from 4 gorgeous therapists, when suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It was Shen Qingyue. She was wearing a tight purple dress, sheer black tights, and red bottom heels. Her heavy makeup hid how exhausted she looked, and her eyes were practically dripping with charm. She shut the door, slid right up next to me, and cooed, "I was so blind before. I really offended you, Mr. Lu. Please, be the bigger man and forgive my stupid mistakes." I glanced down at her wandering hands and smirked. "Miss Shen, are you asking me to unclog your pipes?" Her fingers instantly froze. Deep down, she was probably cursing me straight to hell. But she swallowed her pride, forcing that sickeningly sweet voice again. "Song Han is totally useless. He promised to take me to Mount Shiwan, but he just keeps making excuses. I really need your help. If I help you steal that alloy crankshaft, will you take me with you?" I raised an eyebrow. "One rusty car part for a ticket out of here? Isn't that a horrible deal for me?" Shen Qingyue went limp and pressed her body right up against mine. But I dodged right out of the way and hopped out of bed. She grabbed total air, face planting onto the mattress, looking completely dumbfounded. I pulled on my tactical pants, looking at her in total disgust. "You want a free ride without putting up any real collateral? That's way too easy for you." Shen Qingyue looked so pissed she was about to pass out. But I just grabbed her by the arm. "Cut the crap. Answer 2 questions for me. Get them right, and I'll think about taking you with me." Just like that, I got 2 crucial pieces of intel out of her. First, the power room was in the east wing of the 49th floor. It was heavily guarded, but she could distract them. Second, the Song family's mid-sized passenger ship, the Voyager, had sunk about 150 kilometers north-northwest of Mount Shiwan. That area was covered in thick fog 24/7. All electronics failed out there, so rescue teams were terrified to get close. Hearing this, I was absolutely thrilled. The materials from that shipwreck were exactly what I needed to upgrade my hull and build out my survival shelter. I immediately made Shen Qingyue take me to the power room. She completely played the guards, telling them Mr. Song ordered a mandatory circuit check. Seeing it was the famous superstar, the guards scurried right downstairs. I slipped into the power room and whipped off the dust cover. The scrapped diesel generator hadn't even been touched. Song Han was absolutely just stalling for time. I yanked out my crowbar and violently wrenched the heavy alloy crankshaft right off the machine. I snagged a couple of high-voltage coils and metal bearings while I was at it, then tossed the dust cover back on. I dragged Shen Qingyue back to the suite and immediately started packing up my gear. I stuffed the water, canned food, and spare parts into the backpack and threw it at her. "Carry it." Shen Qingyue stumbled from the impact, her eyes wide. "It's this heavy? You want me to carry it?" I rolled my eyes at her. "What, did you think you could just sit back and enjoy the ride? You want a free ticket without lifting a finger?" She gritted her teeth in anger. But she had no choice but to swallow her pride, shoulder the backpack, and follow behind me. taking advantage of the guards changing shifts. The two of us sprinted down the back corridor to the gap on the 25th floor. Outside, the wind howled, rain poured, and seawater splashed everywhere. Shen Qingyue was sweating profusely from exhaustion. Staring at the pitch-black sea, her voice trembled. "How are we supposed to leave without a boat?" I flashed a confident smile. "Don't worry, I've got it all figured out. I hid a spare kayak in the diving corridor room just up ahead. It's a two-seater, perfect for the both of us." Saying that, I took the backpack from her hands. "Give me the bag and go drag the boat over." Hearing there was a kayak, Shen Qingyu's eyes instantly lit up. She bolted straight for that room. But the moment she pushed the door open, the room was completely empty. Let alone a kayak, there wasn't even a broken plank of wood inside. She instantly realized she had been played. She sprinted back to the gap like a maniac, screaming, "Lu Fan!" But by the time she rushed back to the edge, the platform was completely empty. I was long gone. Meanwhile, out on the open sea, I was lying flat on Xiaobai's back, gripping tightly to its sides. Listening to the furious curses echoing behind me, I just shook my head. That stupid woman would believe absolutely anything. I patted Xiaobai on the head. "Full speed ahead, buddy. Let's get back to the ship and install that engine." Xiaobai let out a happy cry, and with a flick of its tail, carried me through the crashing waves, disappearing into the endless dark night. On the top floor of the Song Corporation Tower, Shen Qingyue burst in barefoot, crying out to Song Han. "That bastard tricked me. He stole the alloy crankshaft and ran off." The pencil in Song Han's hand snapped cleanly in two. He lunged toward the floor-to-ceiling window. But out on the sea, my wooden boat had long vanished without a trace. Just then, Zhang Zhang pushed the door open and walked in. "Young Master Song, two survivors just showed up on the 40th floor. They claim to be close friends of Mr. Lu, and they've been demanding to see you." Chen Zi and Chu Xin were escorted into the reception room. The moment they saw Song Han, they immediately started sucking up to him. "Young Master Song, I'm Lu Fan's best bro, Chen Zi. And this is Lu Fan's favorite woman, Chu Xin. We came here specifically to join you." Song Han stared at them coldly. "And why should I believe you? I've seen plenty of desperate rats who'd call a dog their daddy just for a bite of food." The two panicked and quickly said, "Lu Fan has a beauty mark under his left eye, and a red, cashew-shaped birthmark on the inside of his right wrist. Only people really close to him would know that." Song Han narrowed his eyes. He had seen the mole under my eye before, and had probably caught a glimpse of the birthmark on my wrist, too. It seemed these two were telling the truth. He spoke in a flat, indifferent tone. "Well, what a shame. He just left, and he even scammed me out of my supplies before he went. In that case, I'll just have the two of you pay off his debt."